Back to the Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod 6th Annual Auto Thrill Show. For all you do, this Bud's for you. I'm Larry Huffman with Margo King. And now it's side-by-side mud bog drag racing action. But they are running against the clock. And this is one of the wildest machines ever built. Earlier, Margo had a chance to talk to the driver of the Mud Shark.
Mike Early and his car, the Mud Shark, without a doubt, one of the most spectacular acts on the mud bog circuit today. But along with being spectacular, sometimes being airborne is a problem with you, Mike. What have you done to correct that?
Well, we've tightened the suspension up in order to keep the car in contact with the track better, and I think that'll help quite a bit this evening.
Well, with the suspension dialed in and a motor that we know runs good, this gentleman could be a real contender tonight.
And this is Mike Erdely's pride and joy, a 1964 Corvette with a blown and alcohol-injected 454 Chevy engine, custom molded from Mike's personal 64 Corvette. His competition, Tom Marsh and the Intruder, a 1923 Ford Model T Roadster.
And the run's about to begin, and it looks like the Mud Shark got a great gate.
Jumping the gun possibly just a little, Margo King. The top two times of this round will go to the final round. Mike Erdely's 1,200 horsepower had a slight advantage over Tom Marsh's 1,000 horsepower engine. The crowd here in the Motor City loves the big block American iron. They love the early Corvettes. And there's Mike Erdely's machine, and what a beautiful car it is.
Notice the tires on the Model T there. And he has opted to use the paddle-type tires that we normally don't see in this type of competition. But even with that advantage, the horsepower in his motor couldn't make the cut.
The Intruder, with a time of 2:78, has a 402 Chevy big block engine, alcohol injected on nitrous oxide. The Mud Shark, with a time of 3.63 seconds, but he was penalized 1 second for starting over the line.
And in this game, 1 second puts you out of contention.
So the Mud Shark actually tripped the clocks at 2.63 seconds. That was faster than the Intruder, but that 1 second penalty hurt a lot.
On the far track, we've got the Mudbuster from Waukegan, Illinois. Earlier, Larry had a chance to talk to the driver.
The Mudbuster out of Waukegan, Illinois, and this is Mark Green. Mark, what a short wheelbase machine like the Jeep, and you've extended the wheelbase?
Yeah, I've extended it 24 inches just to make it a little easier to handle in the mud, and hopefully it'll go a little straighter.
What is the hardest thing about mud bogging and driving a mud bogger?
Keeping it straight, keeping it in the track.
Keeping it from going off the track?
Right. It's pretty hard sometimes to keep it going straight.
What happens when you suddenly find yourself going sideways?
Well, if you have to get out of the throttle, you might as well hang it up because it's all over with.
And the drivers are staging now for the next run in front of a near-capacity crowd here in the Silverdome. On track 1, Mark Green in the Mudbuster.
And on track 2, it's Instant T, driven by Chad Miller from Vandalia, Ohio. He's got a 1927 Ford Roadster with a 509 Rodeck, all aluminum engine.
And that Rodeck engine powers him right down across through the finish line in front. Chad Miller in the Instant T, an excellent showing here. He pulled everything from that 900 horsepower engine and the Power Glide transmission. The car was built by Tom Marsh, who just ran the Intruder. Custom hand-built chrome moly tube frame, being the lightest vehicle here tonight, weighing only 1,900 pounds.
And his choice of tires is interesting. He's got a chevron pattern paddle tire on the front, along with the standard cut groundhog on the back. A combination that, although it was a bumpy ride, it did seem effective.
With a time of 2.33 seconds. Let's take a look now at the Mudbuster and see what he can do. Slow motion. Boy, that front wheel, those front wheels come up in the air as he launches off the line. 2.9 second clocking. He breaks the 3-second mark.
You can see why these drivers split over suspension, because his front shocks are working in that run.
And locking up the front and rear wheels.
Track number 1 on the right-hand side of the screen appears to be a lot wetter, yet the times don't seem to reflect that pit is tougher to get through at this point. And here comes the time traveler. And earlier, Larry talked to him.
Out of Niles, Michigan, Bud Thompson, the time traveler, a 1955 Thunderbird mudbogger. Why a T-Bird mudbogger?
It's the only one around as far as I know.
What kind of an engine?
Chevrolet.
What's the hardest part about driving in a mudbogger?
Concentration. Trying to pick the right path to go down. A lot of competition out there, and there's a little bit of luck involved in it, and just a lot of mechanical ability involved in it, too.
Is it fun?
Yes. Definitely.
So here we go. On the far side, the time traveler. On the near side, Craig Jones led Sled Jr. That's a 1986 Ford Ranger with a 427 Ford engine using a nitrous fogger system.
And with his weight disadvantage, he'll need more than a fogger system for this run.
Well, you're absolutely right. He's got a very heavy machine there going up against the Thunderbird. They line up. The starter gives them the green flag. The time to beat is 2.33 seconds, and the lead sled goes off and stops almost instantly. And the beautiful T-Bird goes through sideways. The time traveler locks up almost against the wall.
The time traveler made short time of that, and the lead sled lived up to his name.
He is stuck there in the mud. Let's take another look. Now look at the getting off the line, a beautiful start, but only 24 feet, 10 inches. And look at that fire coming out of the stack, indicating possibly a fried engine, Margo.
That motor had quite a load to overcome.
3.93 seconds for the time traveler, rocking and rolling through the mud. And then locking up instantly and sliding sideways. It's the dirtiest sport on wheels. Mud bog drag racing action. And a lot of these fans are here for the monster trucks. There's Barefoot's biggest fan. And Barefoot and Bigfoot and all the rest are coming up a little later. So don't go away. We'll be right back to the Pontiac Silverdome with more Mud Bog Madness. Welcome back to the Budweiser U.S. Hot Rod 6th Annual Auto Thrill Show Spectacular from the Pontiac Silverdome. We have 4 mud runs to go to qualify for the finals, and the time to beat, the Instant T's 2.33 seconds.
And here comes one of the veterans to the sport. Driving Nitro Express is Clay Langley.
A Nitro Express, a 1932 Austin body with a 393 Chevy engine. On the near side, the Gravedigger, owned by Jeff Tripp, driven by Brian Tripp of South Lyon, Michigan. This is a custom-built Ford buggy with a 351 Ford engine.
Now, it's got a body that doesn't look very aerodynamic, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything in mud bogging.
It looks strange, Margo. It's a strange-looking body. This Gravedigger.
Maybe it's supposed to be like a coffin.
Let's see what happens. They come up and line up on the line. The Gravedigger and the Nitro Express. Nitro Express on the far side, the Gravedigger, the yellow machine on the near side. And the Gravedigger launches out on a beautiful run all the way through the mud, digging a big hole there at the end. And the Nitro Express makes it just a few feet. And there is the Nitro Express, 42 feet and 4 inches.
Say the Gravedigger dug a grave for the Nitro Express, but you can really get a feel for how deep that mud is. Clay's going for the cement floor.
He will not give up. Let's take a slow-mo look at the Gravedigger. Good start, trying to keep up above the mud, to skim across the top of the mud. 3.34 seconds for the Gravedigger. Getting a little bit out of shape now, but he keeps the throttle on and launches all the way through the run.
That shorter wheelbase is going to be more difficult to control, but he had a pretty good run.
And now comes the dirtiest job of all, hooking up the tow line to a stuck car in 4 feet of mud to drag him out.
Hey, there's some 10-year-old kids in the stands that would probably pay to have that job.
They've got to drag that muddy machine out. And again, it takes about $30 in quarters to clean one of these at the quarter car wash afterwards. And they tow out the Gravedigger, who's already made it through the entire run.
We saw that truck explode a little earlier. That's the lead sled.
Craig Jones.